This is my fight, and this fight looks exactly the same like a fight of many people. Fighting with the alcohol addiction is like stepping into the ring. And you're stepping into the ring with who? Well, one of the greatest. Let it be Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson or any other good boxer. Now you go in there and they know and they prepared and they know how to knock you down. If you try to play and dance with alcohol, that's what's gonna happen to you. It's gonna be knockout very quickly. You can imagine if you're gonna stand toe to toe with Mike Tyson in the ring, what's gonna happen to you. Exactly. So the same story is with the alcohol. The alcohol addiction will take you down. It's pretty much simple. I mean, life with alcohol is mean and nasty place, and it will take you down to the ground, and it will keep you there permanently if you let it. So me and you, we nobody. But this is hard as life. As long as we're gonna allow it, we're gonna be sitting there constantly in pain and waiting for that pain to go away, but that pain will not go away until we're gonna do something about it. Okay? And that's how does it look like. Constantly the same regrets, constantly the same failures, constantly the same knockouts on the weekends. Or maybe you're in a position that you're drinking, pretty much more and more, and now it's like it's not a weekends anymore. It's just like constantly drinking, right? So if for the short period of time you had maybe like one day off from time to time from drinking, well, you are in that position when you're on that ring, when you're being knocked down every nearly day and you don't see anything coming well towards you. Nothing looks right. Everything lost already kind of a sense of being, and you just like don't know what to do, That's how does it feel when you fight with the alcohol. But the only thing is, it will go like this until you start doing something about it. Until you start getting some knowledge. Until you're gonna start doing something. Not just waiting. Not thinking, if I'm gonna run, go to the point that I'm gonna just quick running around the ring, and maybe hopefully the other side will get kind of tired, so the alcohol will leave me alone. It's not gonna happen. It's gonna be going after you constantly. Anytime you go, it's there. Anytime you do something, it will be attacking you. You're already in that position when that addiction sits on your back constantly. So you try to cover yourself, but there's a hook, blow. You don't know what to do on the body, in the chest, whatever. That's the thing. So you constantly try to find a way so you can breathe, so you can relax, right? Even if you get into the point that you're thinking that you relax yourself a bit, still again, you have to, after them few minutes of break, jump up again and again fight and again fight. Is that going to be like that forever? Yeah, it will be. It will be if you allow it. And we're not talking about fighting back in perspective that you're going to try to, play and fight with alcohol toe to toe. It's not going to work that way. You need to get smarter. You need to understand the movement. You need to understand why that happens. It's just like you need to understand the other side. You need to understand the opponent, and knowing what the opponent, which sits in the other side of the ring, what it got to offer. Maybe it's got a speed, right? Maybe got a technique. Might have everything. So then once you study what you're up against, you will understand the movement. And then you will understand one more thing. You don't go to the ring with this, okay? That's the only way. You cannot spend the rest of your life trying to think that you can go to that ring, okay, and fight with this alcohol. In terms of that, I got the knowledge, I know what to do, and I'll be okay because I know that I can drink the way how I was drinking before. No, you cannot. It's impossible. You already lost. You lost the battle. You don't know about it, or maybe you don't want to admit it. That's the difference. Constant fight? Of course, you can fight every time. Every time you try to approach the alcohol, every time you're failing. Why? You're putting yourself in that position. But that's what it is. Okay. The word is mean and nasty. But you decide to which place, to which happening you go in. And if I am, for instance, the person who's having a very bad relationship with alcohol because I know it doesn't work, right? The last place I'm choosing is going to the pub, okay? If you have a free time, you want to spend some free time, you don't have to spend that free time in a pub. You can spend that free time doing completely something else which is going to be keeping you away from alcohol. So that's something to think about, okay? And having little understanding that anything in your life will change only if you're gonna start doing some changes. You need to start doing some changes. You need to start doing some different moves, and then you will understand where you are, and you will understand and see the difference, what's happening when you're doing something differently rather than just constantly doing the same stuff and expecting the different results. Okay? You touch the alcohol, you feel bad on the next day, you're telling to yourself, never again, I'm not doing this again, I'm not doing this and that and such and such and such. And later on, you're finding yourself exactly the same place, because you keep returning, keep doing exactly the same bits, because you're in the patterns, because you're in the habits, because you're in your places, because you're with the people. Everything matters, whatever you do, okay? In perspective of alcohol and breaking that relationship with it. Okay, you wanna break that relationship with these alcohol situations, you have to break with the alcohol, but it's not gonna be break with the alcohol in terms of, okay, I'm just gonna stop drinking, everything's gonna be fine. No, because again, it's gonna be going after you anyway, because you've got triggers, because you've got patterns, because you've got cravings, because all these things which they involve in it, right? That is something that we don't take in perspective, especially if you're the person who just started it. But then again, if I will think about, okay, let me think that way. The person who starts the sobriety, it's not aware of something, right? So then it builds up some kind of a relationship with the people they doing it, so they kind of showing you the way. They're not gonna be probably able to show you everything, because everyone is different and we have different circumstances in our lives and different, in majority the similarity, but differences occur. So then that something might happen, but the thing is, not everything could show up, but the knowledge about it is important. And even if something shows up which you have not been told, at least you know that you have to do some kind of a reaction, not going with the flow. So then you meet some people, they show you some ways, or they telling you about something. And one of the steps as well is that later, why this is actually becoming like a fight. Because even when you have someone who trains you to do something, then like typical in a boxer's fight, yeah, you've got the same tools that the others have. You've got, let's say, the same knowledge. But the thing is, you will have to go and stand on that ring by yourself, because you're not gonna have always people, with you or behind you, or telling you like what you can do in this moment, or just in that moment when you feeling down, or you being at home, there's no one around you, no one to help you, no one to guide you, and then you've got the moment when the cravings are coming, or you're gonna have all these situations when you prepped nicely and you have all these scenarios, but then something will catch you out of guard. Okay, that happens as well. And your preparations in the moment when you expect them, it's a one thing, but your preparations and all that knowledge which you're supposed to use and you being attacked by surprise is a different story. Okay, It's like with everything in life. Your parents, if you're lucky, you get a parents in perspective that they could actually prepare you for life. And you go in there, you've got a job, you got a school, there's always someone around you to show you the first steps and this and that. But then will be the moment when you have to go on your own. And this is exactly here. This is exactly the same situation here, when you will have to be at some point, and you will be at some point, when you're gonna be unable to have someone to show you, to give you, to support you. And then you have to find the kind of a way of, okay, I know what to do. Of course, I'm putting my steps right now first time because I never done it myself, okay? But I know what to do. You're scary, okay? Something might feel a little bit off, but still, you're doing it. You're doing it. You get more confidence, because everyone is very confident if there is someone behind you, because you know that you can fall back on something or on someone, or the backup or whatever that is. But then when you get into the point where there is no backup, because it could be like this, right? And it happens like that in your life, that you might think that you need a backup right now, but the backup does not show up because the backup is busy, especially if that would be the person who's supposed to be your sponsor, for instance, or whatever, the person you would like to talk to, or you need it right now in this moment, because you have a moment when you kind of a feeling that you might break and this and that. So you don't want to fall back, on drinking. You don't want to relapse in something, and then you try to contact with someone who is going to calm you down a bit, and then you can't reach that person. You're unable to speak to them. So now it's you against you, and this is the moment right now when you start fly off. This is the moment when you're gonna be like, finding the way to calm down, to pass that moment, to ease a bit. One of the things you need to understand as well is, very often you have the power to leave, okay? Even if you be sitting at home trapped and you're thinking, suddenly stupid thought come into your head about the alcohol, go outside, walk it off. Simple thing, walk it off. But again, you have something that you can leave, okay? If you don't feel comfortable, you can run away. You can run away, so you get yourself kind of ahead, back on a straight route, so you know that this is my path. I don't drink. I had a moment, something was coming up into my head. Now it's cleared out. I focused my, attention somewhere else. So I start walking, after 10-15 minutes, everything is up, or whatever the time you need it. And even if it's raining, so what's the problem? Just grab the umbrella and go, right? And get a little bit wet, fine, it's okay. But right now, this is your fight, okay? This is where you are. And any people you had around you, any support you had around you, the support might fail, might ease off, or maybe even the situation was like someone who's supposed to support you fall himself, right? Or herself, whoever that was. Or maybe you're gonna have another thing, like someone from family is gonna see you like, being in sobriety, not drinking for some specific time, and then they might offer you alcohol, because they might start thinking that he or she was, they've been drinking for such a long time now, they very, very long time away from it. So that means, well, they healthy right now, yeah, they healed and stuff. That's the thing. Then people don't understand that this kind of a relationship with alcohol, it's not like kind of a fixed feature. It's not like, broken furniture that you go to the shop, you take to the recycling center the old one, and you're gonna buy a new one, and you put it in the middle of the living room or whatever, the bedroom, and that's it, end of story, right? You got a new furniture, the other one is gone, history is done, no problems. It doesn't work that way. And these are the moments and all these informations we getting about the alcohol addiction to understand where we are. So when the kind of stuff approaching happen to you, you understand it. If you understand the opponent, you know what's gonna happen. Every time when I had some kind of a little kind of a tweet in my head, twerk twist about something with the alcohol, I have the ability and understanding where that will take me. And then it gets to the point in my head, okay, what do you want to do now? You want to fall with this? Or you want to go this path, whatever was coming up to your head? Or you want to stay where you are? And where you are, you're safe, Specifically when, after like my over 2 years of sobriety, I understand where and how, another way and another happening of touching alcohol will lead me to. And I don't want to even try it if that 2 years is having some kind of a strong, capacity of keeping me away from it, or giving me something like, okay, I can drink one. I know I can. But what's going to happen afterwards, that's a different story. I don't know that. And I don't know that, and I don't want to try it, and I don't want to go in there. This is a kind of a fight, and this is my fight, and this is like fight of many other people. Where you might be in your lowest. Everyone is pumped up when it's strong, when it's supposed to do something, when you're happy about something. It's very easy to go easy life when it's happy life. Yeah, very easy. You can feel so strong. Now, if anything happens, a kind of a sad way, or dodgy way in your life, it might trigger something. It might put some questioning to your head. That's why what I'm doing is I'm trying to separate the events in my life with the event of the drinking alcohol. Because if I separate the alcohol away from my life, and it's not gonna be something like used as a reward, or like something of the stress reliever thing and things like that, to understand that for me and for everybody around me and everyone on the planet Earth, alcohol is a poison. But it's not a poison which it's gonna take you down constantly within a minute. That's the problem with it. You drink it, you might be hangover on the next day, then a few days later you'll get better, so you're kind of healed, right? And then the process repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats. And just because it doesn't have that constant blow, well, unless you're gonna be in a situation that you're gonna drink like tons of alcohol, right? And that will create like, okay, huge amount of alcohol, and then you will have constant fatality situation, failure and something. Yes, because you're gonna be very much poisoned with alcohol. But in the majority cases, we have some kind of a body mechanisms which they try to shut us off. I mean, if you're thinking like when you drink an alcohol and you have something that you go in binge drinking, for instance, that you go into the level of capacity that you've been switched off, your body is switching you off for your safety. It's switching you off for your safety, because otherwise you probably drink yourself to death. It's that simple. Of course, there is aftermath, which is hangover later, or anything which is not convenient with it, because now that sits in your body, it has to be get rid of, so all the processes and everything, it kind of it's gonna be, not nice, and we know it. We know it, and anyone who drinks know how it works, right? Sometimes you're able to kind of cheat on it, because you might be surprised that, one weekend you've been drinking and you felt so bad, and on the next weekend you start drinking, and then you come into the point where you drank actually the same maybe amount, volume, whatever that was, and you kind of waking up on the next day and there's nothing, or maybe barely anything, and you're thinking, wow, but the trouble with that one is these are always the green lights to go for more, unfortunately. Your sobriety as well is changing. It's changing because in the beginning you have the kind of a separation mode, so you're running away from it. So this is like being on that ring and keep, just being chased by that boxer who wants to knock you down. You're running away, and you want to stay away because you don't want that damage, you don't want them hits. I mean, the same as in here. So typically that typical scenario, you try to survive the first 24 hours, and after 24 hours another 24 hours. But this is like constant chase, constant run, and constant escape, and it gets tired at some point. It will get tired because first week you might feel pumped up. Okay, I had a bad, a kind of experience, very bad one. So body is gone. The first week passed by. It's fantastic. I feel pumped up. I don't drink. Blah 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 blah. And then cravings, triggers. People around you might offer you something, or even you hearing someone at work saying to you, "Oh, it's Friday. Yeah, Miller time, whatever." Yeah. So that puts you in a kind of a checks. I mean, look at me. I did not drink a week. I mean, let's say that you've been already with some kind of a scenarios when you've been trying to already cut on drinking. But these are all these things together nicely coming up to you. I hate when someone says, like, people try to kind of sell some books on any other bits, and just like, we will kind of give you ways to get sober within 48 hours. Really? 48 hours to get sober? You mean getting rid of the toxins from alcohol, alcohol from your body in majority cases, rather than get sober? Sobriety is a lifestyle, always was and always will be. And the first stage of it is painful. It's painful with the sweat, so many doubts, right? Insecurities. On top of that, deceptions. Because, if you look on a time when you've drinking for a very long time and you're struggling to get yourself off the alcohol, and now you're creating some kind of a momentum when you don't drink, okay? And you're gonna start questioning things. Why I didn't do that before, right? I mean, look at me. I've been drinking for years or months or whatever, and then now let's say I don't drink for 3-4 months. Hey, it's doable. Or maybe I can do it like that. These are all deceptions, unfortunately. These are them things when we try to calculate, scale everything, look what we can do and how we can disobey the law, how we can obey the law. And this is like, just trying to find a way because you're seeing others when they drinking. Well, definitely you don't know the stories, because everything might look nice in the conversations, but you don't know what's happening behind the closed doors, right? And very often that happens. The people are having problems with drinking, but because they get into the point that they're like functional alcoholics, for instance, so they can still keep the job, maybe have a nice car, nice clothes and whatever, or gadgets, whatever you look at them, it looks okay. But this is kind of a fake. This is deception. It's something that's not really happens. If you're gonna start digging deeper, you will see how miserable lives they actually having, and because of alcohol, and how much they're struggling with alcohol, but they kind of afraid to admit it to themselves, or definitely to be able to admit it to people around them. That's another thing. So you can see them mini tiny fights are everywhere. It's not only you. You're not the only person to struggle. But there is a point where we have people which they aware of it, and there's a point when there's a people they're not aware of it. Okay? Because someone could be, let's say, having alcohol addiction and not being kind of affected much from it, because he's still able to, or she's still able to, or they are able to, provide for the house, for the lifestyle they would like to have. But it's just only that little tiny problem which gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Or you have people which they very much, addicted, but they still have to perform, okay? Or they're trying to find the way, like, if I will perform at home and do a lot of stuff, then still they will allow me to drink. So it's gonna be fine, And trouble on that one is that majority cases, them fights, they're being lost. It's just like everything is being postponed. So for the outside world, everything's supposed to look good. It's pretty much like with any social media, right? You've got something which is nicely, let's say, scheduled, script is written, scenario is being done, and you do all these takes, 20 takes to make that video perfect and stuff. But let's say in the real life, it's not even close to it. But it sells nice, as a social media platform. So any message you put it like that, others are putting, for instance, so you copy them or whatever, just for the thingy. But the truth is, it doesn't look that in a real life. So you have person, for instance, who keeps drinking, keep fighting, keep struggling, keep having some kind of anxiety, stress, and things like that. But it needs to provide the people around them with faith, because majority cases what we're looking in life is some kind of a security, or you want to have ability to see that you have confirmation that everything's going to be okay. Yeah, as long as you see in your life, whatever you do is everything's okay, it's going to be okay, because I need that security. You have that security, it's great, it's fantastic. So sometimes people just putting faces, good faces on it. You drink and you have problems, but outside everyone is thinking you're doing so well. I remember in my case, when I was kind of having a chat with some people, around me, some of them, they just couldn't believe it. They just couldn't believe it that, that you're struggling, or you've been struggling with alcohol. It's impossible. And especially if I mention like that was some years which I did it, they was like, no. Well, yeah, no, because the dude comes to work, he performs, right? Or whoever that person is, it looks clean, never kind of failed in terms of never came like kind of under influence to work, which on many occasions was very close, right? Because let's say you had some kind of a late Sunday sittings or whatever, or if you look on longer weekends and stuff like that, especially when some kind of a holidays, bank holidays coming up, and let's say you have extended period of free time, it's all lovely, because let's say your work allows you that you're being paid for it. So let's say Friday off, Saturday off, Sunday off, Monday off, 4 days. Them 4 days are very intense, okay? So you're thinking you've got plenty of free time, so you can drink, no problem, because let's say Friday you finish on a normal circumstances job, so then Saturday maybe you have to do something around the house, shopping, this, that, whatever, maybe taking kids for some place and stuff like that. So there's like limited option when you can actually hit some alcohol in a larger volumes. But then when you have some kind of a bank holidays, then you can do that, right? And it happens heavily. So yeah, so performing, it's a one of the case. And this is a typical fight for many. They realize they having the fight, but they, let's say, they kind of afraid to speak about the problems. Okay, so you kind of having them problems stacking in within you, within your little tiny home environment. You're fighting with it, and you're afraid if you're gonna go and you speak to someone or find some kind of a support, it will be taken as a failure. That's one of the things which we should get out of our heads. When you're seeking for help, that is the indication of a strength and the power and everything, like, in perspective of making decision to go into the right place and to become better, because now you've decided that there is time to do something about it, okay? And I would say this is when you understand where you have your weakest links. I know, okay, fair enough, you don't need to be the strongest, right? It's just coming to the point where if I know my weakest links, or I will find out where they are, going through some situations when you get the knowledge about the alcohol addiction. And because you see, everything you do, you kind of reflect towards your life, what you've been doing and how and what is happening to you, how you react to the things, how things that trigger you, and how the alcohol is actually used for everything, entirely everything. You're happy, you drink. You're sad, you drink. Okay, you're winning something, you drink. You're losing something, you drink. So this is like, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. From the point when you've been probably trying some alcohol, you know, in the beginning of your journey with alcohol, that whole relationship, if we can call it, where the alcohol was introduced in small amounts in some specific places and happenings, to the point where it's everywhere, when it's like becoming your you know, you keep breathing alcohol in your life, right? If I can say that. Any time off, alcohol. Anything I will do, alcohol. If anything is involved with alcohol, fantastic. If there's anything involved not with alcohol, I just want to finish this as fast as I can so I can go back to it, right? Shopping, alcohol. Going to the town, doing something, alcohol. Going to some visit, alcohol. Fixing something, alcohol, because you need to celebrate, right? You need to this, you need to that. So this is like madness. It's the fight, it's being in the ring, and technically speaking, losing, constantly losing, constant regrets to yourself. You're not happy with yourself. You're not happy with the things you achieved. Even if you achieve some greatness, the superb stuff or whatever that is, it's not gonna give you happiness until you will conclude this with alcohol drink, because then it's gonna be, you know, closed. The sale is done. The sale is closed in the moment when I just finish this with a drink. So that means it's in the books. It's a success. You know, if it's a failure on something, I need a drink, because if I will drink, so that means it's like when I was doing test for the car, MOT, pass, fail, not happy. I have to spend money on a car, you know, repair. You drink and you're not happy. You've done the test. You've done the MOT. You passed it. You're happy now. You don't have to spend, you know, money for repairs. So you got some money in your pockets. Well, yeah, now that money I can use, maybe not everything, but there's some money I can use for the drink. I can drink to that, because if I'm not gonna drink it, then you know that all whatever was good with the car is not gonna be good, because the alcohol is supposed to be the closure, right? And this and that. That's what we've been taught. That's what we've been shown. Okay, we're going like this. But since and when you're gonna touch the life without alcohol, you can see there's a difference. You know, there's something else. There's something else, and looks as equal, as fantastic as drinking. As whoever is thinking that the drinking is great, so not drinking is great, or maybe even greater. Okay, because when you do not drinking, you can imagine all them good things which they've been happen to you, because you can as well spend nice time when you're not drinking. Okay, and on top of that, when you're waking up on the next day, you don't have them extras which they're supposed to, you know, be a part of it, but now they're not, because when you're sober, you don't have hangovers. When you're sober, you don't have them problems which alcohol will kind of you know, caused as well, because when we getting drunk later, we sometimes make them stupid decisions which we will never done when we sober. And I'm sure there will be plenty of people who can relate to that. I remember when I was working as a courier in one of the companies, so delivering parcels to people addresses, and there was like someone opens the door and they say to you like, oh, I didn't expect anything. Oh, hold on a sec, I know. That must be one of them drunk buys on Saturday evening. There you go. So, you know, if it's a positive way in that perspective, then yeah, sure. But there's many people which they actually touching the finances in a very bad way when they drunk, because then you don't have that kind of a fear, right? Or the way of thinking that you have some kind of a breaks about the stuff. You're not gonna do it because you start thinking sobriety. You know, it's pretty much clear mind. It shows you and indicates your life a little bit different direction. So you have that moment to pause and think, rather than just like when you drank. And in my case, for instance, it was like, yeah, why not? Well, not always why not. It's a good why not, because it might end up very badly. And then next day, once you're gonna sort it out, yourself, and once you're gonna figure out what's going on, then you might not be actually happy, and you're gonna have plenty regrets in terms of your actions, doings, and all the happenings which will be. So your abilities, that's what you're learning. You're learning when you're sober, when you get into sobriety, you're learning your abilities. And trust me, there's many which alcohol wiped it off, because it put some kind of a coating on you, and you couldn't be as best as you are. And on top of that, when alcohol hits, and there's no all these barriers breaks are being, the curtains falling, and then some kind of a wideness is open, where you are sober. You have this defensive mode of yourself and what you're doing, who you are, and you're actually discovering the truth about yourself. Okay, because when I look into my perspective, when so many years I've been drinking, I've been kind of losing myself. Okay, so now when I'm sober, I kind of rediscovered who I really am, what I like, what I dislike. It is very important as well. And the kind of this is that journey when you're not being influenced with something very strongly making very big turns in your decisions. Because when alcohol comes to taking over of your life, your majority decisions will be placed when you're drunk, unfortunately, and they're not going to be the right decision. Sometimes you will get lucky, I'm not saying not, but in majority cases there'll be bad decisions which they will influence your life. And sometimes you will be in a point where you can kind of rescue yourself from them bad decisions. Some of them could be reversible, I'm not saying that, but in majority cases, some of them will be changing your life very, very badly, and it's gonna be impossible to put it back, to restart it to the point when you started, when you actually been drunk on it, if you know what I mean. So yeah. So this is a fight. There's a fight in the ring against the opponent who's very tough, very strong. But we have some tools. We have some tricks which we can use. So in sobriety, I would say, if you're gonna concentrate on what is strongest within you and not concentrating what is the strongest about the alcohol, then you should start winning, if that makes sense. Because if I concentrate on my opponent and I'm being afraid of my opponent instead of thinking clearly what I can do, okay, because there's plenty things you can do. There's some stuff which will happen out of your control, but still, you have the last decision. This is one of the perfect things which we tend to very much forget about. That we have some kind of a last word, right? If someone offers you alcohol, you make a decision. You're the one who makes the decision. You might say no, you might walk it off, There's always some option. There's no such thing that there is no option. There is always an option. And when you start saying no to people, trust me, they will respect that at some point as well. You might have a few individuals which they're gonna be trying to drag you back, especially when you're gonna have some people which you had some kind of a history of drinking. Now for them, it's a glitch of situation. You don't drink anymore, but they don't want to get to the head this simple story that you don't drink anymore because we have a drinking history. We've been drinking. We had specifically if you had some great time and things. So they're afraid of you. They're afraid of new version of you, and they're afraid as well themselves, because now this might put very bad light on them that they have a problem, which this is not what you concentrate on. You concentrate on yourself to be the sober one, okay? You're not concentrating on shame and blame someone because they drinking and stuff. No, there's no point in that. I mean, I'm very much busy with myself, whatever I'm doing, and I know what works for me, what, you know, and what does not work for me. So what, you know, what's good, what's bad, what's because you've tested it. I mean, if you allow yourself to go further and further in that sobriety, you will find out what you're good at and how it serves you and how it works for you. You know, not everything will be rosy in a garden, okay? It will be some tough situations for you, but there is a hope. There is a hope, and it does work, and it does work. So stay in there, keep on going, don't give up, and you will get there eventually. Time, that's one of the things we have to forget about, okay? Because if you set in some kind of a time in your head that, you know, if I don't drink a year or 2 years or 5 years, I'll be safe or something like that, no, forget about it. Everyone has a different distance to them levels, whatever you're going to be uncovering and reaching and digging, searching for. You will eventually get to the same level as others, but your timing will be different. But hey, I'll put it this way. This is like with growing tree, right? Whatever you're doing, whatever you're not doing, that 5 years, 10 years will pass by anyway. And the question is where you want to be within that 5 or 10 years. As long as you want to be, you know, staying away from alcohol, then watch them happiness and that calmness, which will come later. Because I could tell right now that after over 2 years of not drinking, I feel the peace finally, you know. I feel the peace. I'm not afraid of Fridays. I'm not afraid of weekends. I'm not afraid of free days. I'm not afraid of going and watching sport games, you know, football, soccer, you know, rugby, basketball games, whatever you do. You know, when used to, for me, it was impossible to do something like that without alcohol. Right now, I don't see any other option than sitting down there, you know, drinking tea, coffee, whatever, and enjoying myself. What's the problem? At the end of the day, when you watch the game, you're interested with the game. The game is the, you know, the subject I'm like to go for it, not the drinking. Where used to, drinking was taking over. How many games I was watching, for instance, when I was drinking alcohol, and I don't even remember the score. Hello? Exactly. Many. Because, you know, or you had some few beers before the game, and let's say by the time when the game kicks off or something, you've been, you know, so done that you know, barely could watch first quarter, first half, whatever the kind of a sport event that was. And that's what I found out, the peace, okay? Time helps, because when you don't drink, you have plenty of time. So even if you don't know what to do with your time, later on, the ideas will start coming in. So because you have some time somewhere that you may be kind of trying to direct yourself, you know, to guide yourself what to do with the time. You don't have to push things through. Sometimes you have to leave it empty space, and then you will see, you know, watch the magic happen. Watch the space. What's gonna happen? You know, that's another thing when another level comes up. Beginning, of course, chase, running away from it. Later, when you realize that I can do it without, that's a very important part. Once you understand you can do it without, then it gets interesting. And you kind of are hungry for more level. Typically, for instance, like with me, where I am at a point that I don't know anyone physically, personally, who's as far as I am. So that kind of makes me kind of a, you know, pioneer in my perspective. So anyone who I knew fall back on drinking, or they start drinking or whatever, and then we have something like, okay, fair enough, I'm continue my path. Sometimes I feel like when I hear that someone broke at some point, I'm not happy about this, but I do understand how fragile things are, okay? And I know how important it is to stay where you are to continue that sober path. I hope this video was beneficial for you, right? I hope that you can find some similarities. Maybe there's something which I kind of highlight it as a new perspective from a new direction, correction and protection for you, and whatever you like to fancy and look at this. If you're happy to drop some comment, please do share. I mean, so we can build some kind of a community, hopefully, and then support each other, because at the end of the day, I always believe that everyone has something equal and something fantastic and something true to say, and we can always learn something from each other. Because to be fair, it doesn't matter how long you sit in sobriety, I'm always open to hear something new, and because anything new I hear about the sobriety, it kind of helps me to put more strength towards it. And that's another break. Maybe there's some information I will not be able to use it for now, maybe for the future or for the close future. But I learned already in my life that there's no such thing like informations which they're not useful, because maybe once in my life something can really save me just because I knew about it. I wish you sober day, sober evening, sober week, sober month, hopefully sober year, or maybe even a sober life. Take care of yourself. I'll catch you later.